Metal guys. Since there's so much content covering the glucose giant, but it didn't really go into detail why he is disliked on such a huge scale, I thought I should offer some explanations. To make things clear from the beginning onwards, I want to point out that I'm what Rainer would call a hater, since I despise many of the things he has done in the past. So after some time I was motivated to put out some wall of texts about him, and I did also some cover of songs and made the lyrics about him, and I did all of this in quite a meaningful way. As far as I see it, it is just a form of satire, but you could say that the guy drained all of the empathy I once had for him out of me. Though the empathy only came in the form of feeling pity for him. I don't condone real-life trolling. For example, some haters were throwing eggs at him when they visited his village. Nevertheless, this video shall focus on the extraordinary douchebaggery that the Bavarian beast has committed over the years. He's a total narcissist and only cares for himself. He had 2 hamsters and he left them to die during the winter by neglecting them and lying about the whole incident. By the way, this constant lying earned him the nickname Dragonlord, meaning Lord of Lies. If you brought the topic up, his usual procedure was just to ban you, since the easiest way to reach him was via his streams, his TeamSpeak and later his Discord. The Marshmallow Monster also owned a horse named Blue. In one of his earlier videos he showed this horse running across the lawn, and he proudly proclaimed that this indeed was his horse Blue. When people mentioned that the horse looked very slim and kinda unhealthy, he was all like, "So what, that's not my horse, it's my mother's horse. No, I never said that it was my horse." So the usual practice of blocking and banning people who brought it up was again set in motion. Gladly, there lives a very kind woman in his village, and she couldn't witness the animal suffer. So she took care of it, and even some of the pilgrims were bringing food for Blue with them. Sadly, the old nag passed away on the 13th of February 2017. Also, there is this general inability to see more in a woman than just the possibility to get what he would call a dick wet. There are endless leaks and voice messages he sent to women over the years, and he comes off creepier than Gigi Allen entering your bedroom in the middle of the night. There was this one chick called Baby Chrissy, a girl that had a miscarriage and made a Facebook profile for her dead baby, and it was all weird on itself. But to not lose myself in the rich lore of the Lord, let's get on with what is important. And that is the fact that Baby Chrissy had a boyfriend at the time, and Rainer was very aware of that. The ultimate gentleman of the incel he is. Of course, he very often stated that he would never lay hand on another man's woman. Well, the statement very quickly turned into a, "Well, at least now I cannot have you," and then later became, "Have I told you about the sex dream I had about you last night?" Of course, none of his subtle maneuvers were bearing fruits, at least not for him, and also not for Baby Chrissy, who was kinda trolling Rainer in a way that she wasn't really interested in him. Shocker, I know. On her part, it was some kind of seeking internet fame, and in an interview she stated that she wanted to help him by extorting him so that he would improve his life by thinking he could get into a relationship with her. I think both parties didn't hold up the flame of social integrity, but most sources that go deep into the Rainer lore are like this, since he isn't as willing as Chris Chan when it comes to dropping epic stuff. And I'm getting lost again. So onwards to another romance that just wasn't supposed to be, or as I would call it, damn it Rainer, this time you could really have gotten a woman who liked you besides knowing all the weird shit you did. The online persona of this woman was called Benetic, and over the span of some months she threw thousands of euros into the financial void that bears the name Rainer Winkler. She did so via the donation function on YouNow, and since this donor was weirdly interested in the Bavarian blob as a person, she started to contact him and then indulged into private conversations on his Discord and stuff like this. Since he's a total control freak and narcissist, he drove her away into the arms of another man. It is a bit like the guy in the pickle suit with Chris Chan, only that Rainer could only blame himself, which is impossible for this walking incarnation of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So of course he had to write about this on his blog, and so he really asked her if she and this new dude had sex, since it was crucial information for his blog and its readers. Oh, and he made it clear to her that he wants to sabotage her relationship with the new guy, so she has no other choice but to come back to him. Well, this didn't end well for him, because this woman agreed to give a long interview to one of the biggest haters in the game called Kare. Props to her, since she seemed to hold back some information that would have put Rainer in a way worse situation. This is further proven since Rainer didn't really try to mess with her afterwards. Oh, and a habit he has is that he has sent videos of him beating the meat to women that rejected him as some kind of present. Benetic also talked about this, and I guess now I can appreciate the presents cats give me way more. Although I said that I think that the whole pilgrimage thing isn't that cool, since you will definitely annoy the neighbors, because even if you just take a picture in front of his house, he will start yelling and sometimes even come outside, at any time of the day or night. But still, there has to be an equilibrium between the opposing forces. By that I mean, if you say that I am a cunt and I pull out an M16 and saw through your kneecaps with it, you could very well say that I overdid it a little bit. That's sometimes the case with Rainer. People are just standing in front of his property and the view is blocked by garbage that Rainer has put on his fence. The pilgrims are talking to him and it quickly escalates into a usual exchange of insults. Suddenly Rainer is throwing stones and metal bars over the fence. Gladly, in this instance, nobody was hurt. Since this wasn't the only incident, Rainer is currently on parole because he pepper sprayed some pilgrims that stood in front of his fence, and part of the verdict were also some hours of work for the community he had to do, but sadly no one really knows where he worked them off. And he has also hit a car with a stick and throwing rocks at cars that were passing his house. I mean, of course, in that case it were pilgrims, but it certainly contradicts the picture of a pacifist he desperately tries to paint. Those were kind of the main things, but I'm sure some of my fellow German haters will correct me in the comments when they find this video, so feel free to add anything and tell me how dumb I am for forgetting it. Medal off!